Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel where we do painting tutorials. I've already taped down my page with some masking tape and I start by coloring the top with some ultramarine. I apply it very lightly and even lighter as I move downwards. I'm going to leave the center blank for now because I want to draw a sun there, so I take my cadmium yellow and I just scribble a circular shape. I've also added a little binder clip on the bottom of my sketchbook because I'm way past half of it and it just tends to lift there, so I've added the binder clip just to make this easier. I'm gonna take my kneaded eraser and pick up most of the drawing, that way it does not smudge. You don't get black graphite smudging over your hand and over your sketch. Back to our painting, I take some dark yellow and I lightly scribble it around the cadmium yellow, and that's it. I take my watercolor brush and I start blending from light to dark just with the blue. So I start from the bottom, I go to the top. I'm using a good amount of water for this, but not too much. This brush is very good at regulating itself, so I just go left to right, right to left, and don't bother to dilute or to dry up. It just does that on its own. Then I clean my brush thoroughly on that piece of paper you see on the right side. And I start blending the yellow. Once I've activated, I bring out some of the dilute yellow towards the blue. I don't really blend it too much, lightly scribble it, but that's about it, because if I were to focus too much on blending it, yellow and blue make green and I don't want a green sky. You don't need this to be perfectly seamless, you don't need a perfect blend because it's going to be covered with foliage, and the goal here is to just have that yellow/white speck in the center. That's going to be the sun and the sunlight, and some blue on the corners and on the sides for the sky. While that dries, I take some earthy green and I color the ground with it. Then I take the same cadmium yellow I used for the sun and I add some random hints on the very top edge of the grassy field. Then with some helium blue, which is my darkest blue, I'm going to add shadows under each tree I'm seeing on my initial sketch. And a little thing I recommend here is when you make the shadows under the trees, bring them down all the way to the bottom of the page. Don't do just 1 centimeter like I did. I'm going to fix this up in my second layer, but save yourself some time and effort and just make the shadows longer. Then I go over the blue with some cadmium orange and I added some yellow ochre because why not? Also notice how the shadows on the left side of my sketch are slanted towards the left side, and on the right side they're slanted towards the right side because the sun is behind the trees, so we get those interesting shadows there. Then again I take my watercolor brush and I thoroughly dry it on that napkin. I'm not pressing on the barrel at all, I'm just letting it do its own thing and I'm going left to right, right to left. It does not matter if some of the shadow bleeds into the grassy field, that's perfectly fine. The only thing is I want those yellow hints I add on the top to be a bit more visible, so I don't really focus on blending those too much. And by now the sky has dried, so I move back to it and I'm going to do a base layer of my earthy green very randomly. So I apply it pretty much all throughout the page and I'm leaving just bits of the sides where we applied the ultramarine for the sky, and I'm going to skip everything that is around the sun and the sunlight because I want like the sun rays to be coming through the trees, highlighting them. So right now I'm not going to apply anything over that area, I'm just skipping it completely. And I take my watercolor brush again and I'm going to activate this base layer just by using a tapping motion with my brush. I go tap tap tap, basically just very lightly hitting the paper. What this does is it gives us a lot of texture and a lot of depth to work with, and it's going to make this base layer look like even more trees and more of the forest there in the background. And some I'm going to use as foliage for on top of the trees. Then I go back to making those shadows longer on the bottom. Like I said, I'm just going to add a bit more blue and orange right there to make them reach the bottom of the page where I have my final piece of tape. Then I take my walnut brown and I'm going to just go over all of my trees I have from my sketch. If drawing is not your thing, there is going to be a traceable available over at my Patreon page, Sunshine Arts. We also do full-time tutorials there and exclusive digital content, so if you'd like to check that out and help support me and the channel, you can find all the links down in the description box, along with the list of all of the supplies I've used throughout this video and also the reference picture. So I just keep going with my brown to outline these tree trunks and fill it in as a base color for the trunks. Nothing special here. For the tiny branches I will be using black, so I just skip them right now. And also I again skipped the area of the tree trunks. They're over that sunlight big blob of yellow we have right in the middle. Just skip those, don't make it black, avoid it for now. Since the foliage is dry, I take my dark ultramarine and I start outlining some random shapes among the foliage. I'm just adding some shadows here. On the left side of my sketch, I outline all of the blobs and shapes I see on the bottom, and on the left side and on the right side of my painting, I outline the bottom and the right side. Left is left, right is right. It's pretty straightforward. And then I just randomly scribble left to right, right to left on the bottom side, because you have the trees on top, they are casting their shadows, so the entire bottom area of that greenery is going to be a bit more in the shadows. Then for the area that is around the sunlight, I'm going to use some cadmium yellow to add hints of all of the greenery that is surrounding the sun. For the tree trunks, I'm going to add a bit more details, a bit more depth into that brown color, because I find the brown that is straight from the box a bit ugly. So I just add a smidge of my dark blue, helium blue on top of the tree trunks. Then again, I take my brush, I dry it very thoroughly on the napkin. I even press the bristles down with my fingers, because you need very little water for this. If you use a bit too much, you may end up diluting the paint and it's not going to look as vibrant. And I just start tapping over. I usually go from light to dark if there is a light tone and a dark tone in a certain area. For an example, if on top of some leaves I have a bit of that yellow, and then on the back side I have some of the blue, I blend from the yellow towards the blue. If it's all green or blue, I just tap on it and don't stress about it. Just like all of that bottom greenery I did with the dark blue, I just go over, tap between the trees. Pay attention not to tap on a tree and then tap on the greenery again, because you're going to get brown patches and it may look a bit weird. Then once I have activated all of the green stuff, I go to my tree trunks and very lightly I just activate the thickest portion of them. I'm not going to bother activating tiny branches or top of the trees where it gets extra tiny, because we don't really need that. I do this for the sake of vibrancy and to make it look smoother, because sometimes you can see tiny white speckles of the paper peeking through, and I don't really like that. So I'm just very lightly going on top of the widest part of the tree trunks, which is typically the bottom. And once I finish that, I take my black pencil and I'm going to just outline the top sides of the trees where they're the skinniest, the thinnest, and I'm going to add some random tiny branches, just peeking out of them to the right side and to the left side, and make it look more like a forest. Again, I'm just completely skipping any pieces of trunks or branches that are pointing in the direction of the sun. I just have my base pencil sketch right there and I like it as is, so I'm not going to apply any color over those sections. That's how I'm going to get that very sunny looking landscape, like a sunrise. I just connect any parts of the tree crown to the tree with tiny lines. They're going to resemble branches, and I do some finishing touch-ups, mostly on the shadows. I like to connect the shadows to the tree trunks. If I did not accomplish that with my brush, I'm just going to very lightly do some coloring between those two to make them unite, and that is about it. I'd like to give a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters for the month of August. I hope you found some value in this video. If so, please let me know by liking and commenting, and if you have not already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps with the algorithm. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see each other in the next video. Bye bye!